Welcome to another 2 Minute Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about a finished whiskey, specifically Penelope Havana. Penelope Havana is one of now many rum-finished whiskeys that are out there. Finished whiskey in general has had a huge surge in popularity over the last few years, whether it's the trendy stuff or maybe not so popular trendy stuff like think Amberana, or something that is a little more common like your port finishes and some of the other wine type finishes that are out there. There have been more and more rum finishes coming on the market, and Penelope's got a little twist on it. Theirs are finished specifically in maple syrup and rum barrels. So kind of halfway, say, between a Widow Jane Decadence and something like Master's Keep Voyage. There's the rum finish from Old Forester's 117 collection, and many others like Carl Huber's in their Starlight series that have done things like rum finishes or VDN finishes or all these other things. But let's see how well Penelope can handle this finish. The Rio that they've done previously and the Valencia, which is a VDN and an Amberana finish with honey, are both very popular. They're sought after. So, can Havana hold up? Good pop. We're gonna get this poured and then dive into 2 Minute Tuesday. Now, a couple details before we get into the actual notes. The Havana is at 93 proof, and while that might seem a little low, a number of the different rum finishes that are out there, like the Old Forester 117 series from 2024, that's only 95 proof. Even Master's Keep Voyage, which is a Master's Keep bottle, is only at 106 proof. And a majority of what I have tended to see in the rum finishes that are out there, we're not seeing like big super proofy monsters. These are designed to be a little more relaxed, definitely a little sweet because of that rum, but when you're doing that finishing, some of that blending, a lot of times it's not going to be as big a proof monster as some of like the barrel proof whiskeys that a lot of us tend to normally enjoy. Let's get into it. Color looks great, and finishing in rum, you wouldn't expect anything else. See what we got for legs. That's okay. Nothing too crazy. I mean, it's a little thinner. It's only 93 proof, so you're not going to have something really nuts, but there is some viscosity to it. Man, on the nose, the rum is not a big note forward. It's very light. So is the maple. I honestly get very little of the maple. I get more rum than maple, but this definitely is a bit more whiskey forward. If you're not somebody who likes very heavy finishes, this might be up your alley. It definitely has some of like the MGP profile. Like I can smell a little bit of the kind of typical things I get out of MGP. Let's go into the palate because I think that's where it's going to really matter. Ooh. Right away, I can see why this thing goes for like 150 on secondary, which it's similar to the estate collection in pricing. It's like $79.99 in Washington State, ends up about $100 just after all the Washington State taxes. There's some really great sweetness that comes in first. The maple is not overpowering. That was one of the worries I had when it said maple syrup and rum, is that the maple would be too forward, because maple's just so sweet. If you have ever had Widow Jane Decadence, you know what I'm talking about. The maple's just this tiny little kiss. There definitely is a really nice rum sweetness that's there, but it's not overpowering the whiskey. The whiskey is still there. You're still getting mostly whiskey palate, but instead of, say, like that kind of dark sugar or fruity sweetness that we would get out of most normal unfinished whiskey, you're getting that very rum and maple influenced sweetness, and it's actually really nice. And despite being 93 proof, it hangs on pretty good. But I think a lot of that is the natural sweetness just sits on the tongue for so long. Yeah, just immediately after another sip, it sits there. It's very sweet, but not overpowering. You still get good whiskey notes. There's still a little bit of oak influence. There's still definitely some kind of darker brown sugary stuff that's going on. You don't get any of the really heavy, like kind of tobacco-y or leathery notes like you might out of other straight whiskeys, because the finish is going to mess with that some, but you still get some of that barrel spices coming in at the end, so there still is a little influence from that, despite the fact that it was double cast and aged a little extra, right? Let's get into overall score. I'm a little bit of a bias toward rum finishes, obviously, and we're going to compare some of these in a second, but I actually think I'm going to give this an 80. While it's low proof and it doesn't hang in there super long, if I want something that's a little different sweetness than just standard whiskey, this is really hitting me delightfully. There's a wonderful sweetness, but it's not so cloying and overpowerful that you don't taste any of the whiskey. You're still getting that nice whiskey flavor profile coming in from the MGP. Because that proof is a little lower, you can really go through this fast. Honestly, this might be bad. This is going to go to a share, and then after that, it might not last long. So I probably have to try and find a backup. Uh-oh. There's a predominant sweetness, and if you like really sweet whiskey, or you're a rum fan maybe, this might be a really cool way to transition from maybe more mixed drinks into something that is a more of a sipping whiskey, or you just want a different experience. If you're looking for something during the summer especially, I think this would be fantastic, because you get in that hot weather. It's not blowing your face off, it's pretty mild, but it's nice and sweet. It's really good. Yeah, there's just like kind of a touch of tobacco. I think if you wanted something to go with a milder cigar, this actually could be pretty amazing. I'm not a cigar smoker, smoker, but I have in the past. I found myself when I used to smoke cigars, I like Jamaicans, and I tended to go towards sweeter drinks with them. And I think this would be actually a pretty good combo for those of you who are big fans of having a stick with your beverage. But real fast, what I want to do is compare it to both the Master's Keep Voyage and the Old Forester 117 series rum finish. I'm going to do a tiny sip of each and just kind of compare, because, you know, this is, you're looking at like about $100 bottle-ish, and secondary it's about $150 or so, last I checked. But how does that compare to something like the Old Forester rum finish? We won't do full notes on this, just kind of a quick snap judgment, right? And would I rather like try to hunt this down in some way, shape, or form, or go for the Havana? And this is going to be a lot harder to find, mind you, because it's a Kentucky distillery only. I think they go to a few other states, but I got mine through a friend in Kentucky. A lot less rum and sweetness prevalence on the nose, and in a sip too. This is 95 proof, so very similar proof point, but what I'm getting is the rum is like a really soft, like kiss of rum, of what I call it. It's just barely there in the Old Forester. You taste significantly more whiskey. And if you're going for a finished whiskey where you want that finish to have a bigger impact, I would definitely choose the Havana over this. If you want more whiskey and a very subtle impact, that's where I would look for something like the 117 series. That's a single sip. We've been trying both, but I'm pretty familiar with this. You can actually see, like, even though it's a 375, I'm getting kind of low. I took it to a share. It was very, very popular. I honestly think people that like a slightly sweeter whiskey are going to like the Havana more than that Old Forester. But let's go all the way up to the big boy. Master's Keep Voyage. This was like a $300 bottle after taxes in Washington State, which, good lord, Wild Turkey, chill out. I remember why I love this. On the nose, the rum is just, bam, it's hitting you up front. Let's go to the palate, and then we'll get that kind of snap judgment between Havana and these 106 proof Master's Keep, which is 3 times the price. I want to remind you of that once again. I mean, look, I know a lot of people don't like the price point on this. And if you don't, but you like, if you've ever had this, it is very rum forward, and then it kind of shifts on the back end, kind of mid-palate into the finish. You get some of that turkey funk and a lot of the things that are more normal in the end of the flavor profile of Wild Turkey whiskey. A little bit of that spice, a little bit of that heat, a little touch of that cherry note that's in there, like all the usual Wild Turkey goodness, right? That's what you get out of this. Is this worth basically three times the Havana? No, it's not. I honestly, if I were choosing, right, to either A, buy a bottle of Havana and save like $200 over a voyage, or get 3 bottles of Havana, I'm gonna take the Havana. I get a similar amount of the sweetness up front. There's a little difference in the profile. This is a bit, just a touch sweeter than the Voyage, and my Voyage has been open for a while, so there's that too, right? I'm sure that as this opens up and airs out, it'll change a little bit, but this is a touch sweeter, but not so horrible that you can't taste the whiskey. Some finishes, for me, like Amberana, is so overbearing that I can't taste the whiskey. I only taste that like cinnamon toast crunch nonsense that's going on, and often it's just way too much for me. This, yeah, dude. I really like this. It's really good. I'm serious. Like, I think if you wanted something, it's going to be harder to find. You want more whiskey and barely any finish. I would look for something more like the 117 series. I don't remember the profile I've had, and I don't want to open this bottle because it's my backup that I'm saving. But compared to the Voyage, which is like 3 times the price of the Havana after taxes in my state, or at least when I bought it, I'd rather have Havana. It's giving me what I want. When I go to a finished whiskey, I want that finish to be not overbearing, but I want it to be prevalent. I want the dominant note to be because of that finish, and then I want to have a nice like whiskey back end kind of in there where I'm still getting some of the whiskey's profile. Havana's doing that really well. I get that sweetness, that little touch. It's like a tiny bit of that maple, and really what it feels like is the maple is helping with the viscosity some. It's giving it that more syrupy feel, but that sweetness is predominated by the rum. And then it shifts into everything that I want out of a whiskey profile. Now granted, the proof point a little bit lower, right? So it's not as like, it's not lingering as long or anything like that, but if I wanted to just sit and sip this would be great. Fantastic. Really, really fantastic. And you could probably make a like rum-oriented cocktail. I would think like a mojito as an example with this, and it would make a phenomenal mojito. It'd be like blending a mojito and a mint julep together. God, that sounds really good. Anyway, I wanted to do this as a little comparison. For those of you who enjoy finished whiskeys, try to find the Havana. It's hopefully going to be relatively available. I mean, it's kind of like the Rio and the Valencia where it's going to be there and it's going to disappear pretty fast because people are going to go crazy for it. But if you can find one, especially if it's at MSRP, definitely don't pay more than $150 for this bottle. I even think, honestly, its secondary price at 150 is worth it. It's quite good. And I feel like 80 is a really good representation of our number here, because when I'm in the mood for finish, this is absolutely an 80. But I'm not always going to want a finished whiskey, so that's why I'm not going to like crank it up a little bit higher. And also, a few more proof points would really lend to add a bit more to the score, give it a little bit longer finish, a little bit more impact from the whiskey. But when I go to finishes like this, as I said before, I like the finish to be the predominant note, and then I get all the whiskey coming in on the extra to kind of enhance the experience. Penelope, great job. Havana is absolutely delicious, and if you like finished whiskeys and have an opportunity, grab yourself one. Let me know in the comments down below. Have you had Havana yet, or have you tried some of the other rum finished products that are out there? What has been your favorite? What's the one you can't stand? What's the worst one, right? Would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe consider sharing, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. It's one of the best ways to help us small whiskey tubers out and keep us doing crazy nonsense like this and expanding to even more nonsense in the future. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.